This week, I'm answering one of the most common questions I get all the time, either through my social media or through sessions that I have with clients. And that's, how can I identify what makes me unique? What's my edge as a personal brand? I think that we need to take a more holistic approach instead of just going for a workbook and a tactic. And I know that it can sound frustrating at times, but it is so worth it in the end. Trust me, you are going to feel way more clear and ready to take action at the end of today's episode.
Do you want to be seen as the go-to in your industry, get more sales, easily attract new opportunities, but feel overlooked online? If so, you are in the right place. Hey, I'm Eugenia, but you can call me E. I'm a marketing strategist, a wife, and a new mom. I learned the secret of how to be seen as an authority and have people think of you for new opportunities and more clients. If you're ready to get clear on what makes your personal brand unique, build a magnetic presence online, and get more eyes on your business, this is your next move.
When I started writing the outline for this podcast, I always start with what's the meat of the podcast, what's going to answer the main question. I make it very simple in bullet points. And then I realized that finding your edge, what makes you unique, it's not as simple as a 1, 2, 3, 5 second rule. And that can come very clearly and very fast to some people, but it is not because they are faster at thinking, but it's because they have done some of the work and some of the processes that come before. That's work that's already done. So getting to the 1, 2, 3 becomes so much easily. So first, we really need to separate what makes you unique as a person from what makes you unique as a personal brand. And at first, when I started honing in on my positioning as a brand strategist, I thought that this idea was only relevant for people who were starting to build personal brands. And then the more I worked with people in so many income gaps or revenue gaps rather, I noticed that it was a reminder that needed to be said over and over. Of course, different formats and different ways of saying it, but the substance is the same, that your value as a person, as a human being, is not going to be the value of your personal brand. First, intrinsically, as a human, you were created with intention. You are not an accident. God is not confused and surprised and saying, "Oh, gosh, here's Mary with this idea. Ugh, I'm so surprised." He's not shocked. You know that for me, my faith is extremely important, and I respect a lot every person's faith, but I really anchor in what the Bible says. I think those are life principles to live by. And the Bible says that so God loved the world that he sent his only child, so whoever believes in him doesn't get lost but has eternal life. So that tells me that you have so much value that God came to this world to die for you. So your value as a person, as a human being, that is beyond question. You're extremely valuable. There's no numeric value to add to you as a person. In the same way, you have qualities, you have gifts, you have abilities. Those were born with you and they make you perfect for something in this world. And I do want to stop here for a second and talk about this idea of your purpose, because I see that generates so much anxiety in people. It's like a cycle, right? Every time we go through a transition, we start thinking about this topic of purpose, even if we do it from a different perspective. But my perspective is very consistent, has been very consistent for years. And my perspective is that you weren't born to do just one single thing, and that thing is just your purpose. And if you think about it from a romantic perspective, you weren't born with just one soulmate, and if you choose the wrong person, well, like, good luck. Like, you're gonna have a horrible, miserable life. No, you were not born to do one specific thing. You were born to serve the world in your greatest, biggest capacity with those gifts and those skills that you have. And that can be your business. That can be in the way you take care of your kids, in the way that you turn your house a home. It can look so many different ways. So basically, your purpose is not what you do, but how you do it and what do you do it for. So when we start having this conversation on what makes you unique as a personal brand, we have to start talking about your value and your mission that goes beyond a business and what the market says about your value. That said, when we talk about personal brand, we are looking at it from a commercial perspective. So here we are not talking anymore about your value as a person and your purpose as a human being. Now we are talking about how the market perceives your gifts, your talents, your offers, how the market perceives everything that you offer as something valuable that is worth investing their time, their money, their heart into. So when here we start talking about let's identify what makes you unique as a personal brand, I really want us to separate these two dimensions between person and product. I know it sounds awful to say product, but in a way, when we build a personal brand, we are productizing some elements about ourselves. Not to say that it is going to be fake, not to say that it's going to be manipulative, not to say that it's going to be performative. Like there's a method to make sure that it feels so aligned with you and your purpose. But your value as a personal brand, it's not going to be the same value that you have as a human being. So I always like to keep that distinction in mind. Because if we don't do it, we are going to be frustrated. We're going to take all rejection that we receive as a brand, and that always happens in business, by the way. We're going to take those rejections personally. And we are going to also take every applause and every compliment that we receive on a personal level. And then we're going to start believing that, oh, all this acknowledgement and all these applauses must mean that I have something special as a human, right? And that makes me perfect and that makes me better than other people. So we don't want to fall in any of those extremes. We don't want to take rejection of us as a brand or of our offer, of our podcast, newsletter, whatever it is. If things are not growing, whatever is happening that commercially is not resonating, I don't want us to take that to mean that we don't have value as a person. And if the thing that we launch is extremely successful, I don't want that to mean that we are special over other people. So I want to separate both. I think starting this conversation, grounding that difference and understanding that we're talking about your commercial value as a personal brand, that's going to remove a lot of the anxiety around this topic. However, that doesn't mean that your human dimension, who you are as a person, doesn't influence at all who you are as a personal brand. So it's interesting, right? It doesn't define your value as a personal brand, does not define your value as a person or as a human being rather, but who you are as a person influences your personal brand, which I think is super cool. So the second point here is that your skills, your talents, your experiences are clues and they inform whatever makes you unique as a personal brand. So now that we've separated your value as a human being from your commercial value as a brand, we can now have a vision, if you wish, a little bit more surgical of yourself so you can understand from your essence, from who you are, how you create and how you add value to your personal brand and you can add value to others. Because that's the beauty of personal brands. They are not invented from smoke. They don't come out of some creative's head, some agency in New York. When we look at a commercial brand, a group of people, very creative, incredibly smart, they get together and they want to humanize a product, a brand that in principle doesn't have a soul. It's just a product, right? A pair of shoes is just a pair of shoes. But a group of creatives got together and they decided to infuse those shoes with a bunch of meaning and purpose. And now every time we see Nike shoes, we think of strength and bravery and being bold and doing something before you're ready. Or a group of creatives, they got together and they looked at computers, very technological, and you might say computers might be boring for some, and they infused it with this meaning and this desire to create, to be different, to be irreverent. And then even the name of the brand Apple, like the name Apple is the most like whatever name in the world. Whenever someone asks me like, oh, I have this idea for my company, for the name, what do you think? And of course, there's a science to naming. I'm not saying that it doesn't matter, but at the same time, like someone named their computer company Apple. I can even imagine like arriving to have cocktails with friends and saying, "Oh yeah, my company's Apple." And this was before Gwyneth Paltrow made these weird names cool. Like imagine back in the day, right? But because it was so loaded with meaning, it became special. It became so valuable, and now we think they're genius. Like, oh, how could they think of this name? This was perfect. But with personal brands, our canvas that we're painting from is not fully blank. We are not creating soul from nothing. We are creating from complex human beings who are full of life, full of paths of experiences, full of fears, of dreams, of goals, full of history. So the work of a personal brand, it's not about creating or inventing soul for a product. It is about highlighting the elements of your humanity that make you irreplaceable in a commercial context. And that's what makes me absolutely love personal brands. So, how can you take that canvas that is you and that canvas that already has some brush strokes and take everything and position it in a way that tells a story of what makes you unique? Which brings me to my third point, and that is that you have to understand what needs are you fulfilling in a way that nobody else does. This is an excellent exercise, and you don't have to overthink. I think if you just give yourself a timer, like maybe 30 minutes tops, you can get so much clarity. So you're going to start by writing down your strengths. You know, I love frameworks. I feel like I think like a lawyer sometimes. I really love like structured thinking and I really like to be prepared. So I personally love the Gallup Strengths framework. I don't recommend things like the Enneagram for things like this. If you've never had your Gallup Strengths, get them done on the website. They are just, it's a framework that really changed my life. And take the top 5, read on each one, see which one resonates with you the most, what are things that you want to bring to the table, and even start playing with combinations that really speak about you, what you bring tangibly, and what you bring intangibly. For example, for me, my top 2 is connectedness and activator. And to me, that says that I love giving life to projects that are just filled with purpose and vision. In my top 5, also, I have intellection, which is that I have a big, like, I'm really good at thinking, like sitting down, processing my thoughts. So as I process these strengths, I realized that I wanted to build my business from a way that would allow me to think and reflect, because that's the way that I was going to produce the best work. So I created all of these elements. I embedded all of these elements into my business that allow me to think and don't require me to just make split-second decisions. For example, I have a very long onboarding questionnaire, and that helps me understand every person's situation and their business and their dreams. And I don't have to arrive to a session at zero, just knowing the basics, but I can start thinking about you. I can start thinking about your business. And then I arrive so much more prepared already with ideas. And that's also the reason I send a brand summary after the session. That's just not a overall recap, because I like to organize my ideas so it feels very light to implement. And now I'm giving you these 2 examples because I am not using this part of this exercise of just like brain dumping my strengths just so I can find this is how I'm going to be positioned. Like I'm the person who thinks or like this is a post. Not necessarily. Like at this step, I'm just using my strengths to develop my intangibles of my brand, and some of the tangibles, of course, how they're delivered, and develop this world that I invite my clients into when they work with me. So after I do this brain dumping on a personal level, another super important point is to do this with all of the reasons, and that's tangible and intangible, that someone has to work with me. And here you can include their problems, what they feel, the things that they are aware of, the things that it's more, experience, and they are not fully aware that they are going through it. So an example for a commercial brand is Starbucks. And I think I'm one of the few people that I genuinely love Starbucks coffee. Like, I love the taste. I love the way they make cappuccino, especially my almond milk cappuccino. I think it's just perfect. I think they achieve a perfect temperature because I don't like it hot. I like it warm. So to me, a clear benefit of me going to Starbucks is a delicious cup of coffee. But there's also an intangible benefit, and it's the smell inside Starbucks. And the smell inside Starbucks just helps me focus. It's so unique and so distinctive that as soon as I smell it, doesn't matter where I am, I get creative. I want to work. I want to be productive. I write so incredibly well when I'm at Starbucks. I get so many things done when I go to Starbucks. If I have to develop something that really requires my creativity, I know that I have to go to Starbucks. So those are more intangible benefits beyond just having a cup of coffee. And I want you to do the exact same thing with your brand. I want you to define the tangible and the intangible that gives an answer to what a person needs. And then write a list of all the other options that person could use to fulfill those needs, to solve those problems. For example, if I want to get a cup of coffee, I could have coffee at the Publix window, like one of those Cuban coffees. Or I could even make coffee at home. I'm very proud. My coffees, like my own coffees, are very delicious. Or I could go to one of these cool coffee shops that they have in North Miami. They have incredible concepts. They have organic coffee. Like, they have incredible experiences as well. Like, I don't want to minimize how good they are. And then if I'm like, okay, I want to get work done, I want to focus, I could go to the library, or I could go to Barnes and Nobles. I could go to, a bookstore. I could go to a park and let me write, pen and paper. Let me just be unplugged. There are so many other options. So after making that list, then your work is point by point, identify why. Even when there are so many other options, your option is still the best. If you are a course creator and there are courses that are similar to yours, sure, other courses could have similar features, and maybe there's a module that's similar. Let's say you work in finance and budgeting. Like, there may be similar things, but then, like a lawyer, you have to make a case for what each of those points are not comparable to yours. And maybe some are, and that's fine. We're not making it personal. Remember, point number one, it doesn't mean anything about you. But maybe you by doing this exercise, you're going to find some cool angles that only you can provide. For example, let me tell you an example of an actual personal brand that I have so fresh because I just did an episode on her. And this is Vix Maldrew, and she has a membership volume. And in case you didn't hear the episode, this is a membership that helps you create Instagram content. And she has just this incredible framework and templates to make it super easy. And the main goal of the membership is to get more followers, to then get more leads, of course, to make more sales. But this is a lead generating membership. And being honest, the Vix's membership is not the only option that I have for Instagram content. There are courses, and I was considering a couple that they sounded pretty good. There are other memberships. I was also looking at others. There are cheaper options that offer templates and prompts and this whole thing. So if Vix does this exercise, she could say, oh, look at so many options. Everyone's doing the same thing. The market is saturated. But then you have to do part two and see, okay, some of these memberships, the focus is to get more followers, but not necessarily for your business. Like, the focus is not strategic to grow your business. And other memberships, they really help you grow your business on Instagram, but the focus is on talking to people who follow you already. And I think, Vic speaking, assuming that that's what she would say, I think you have to get in front of new people, grow your following, grow your reach, and grow your audience, you need more volume to get more leads. So volume tells me, that specific membership tells me how to grow strategically on Instagram and grow my business. And that's on the tangible side. On the intangible side, Vix's community is just incredible. People are very creative. And I don't mean creative as in like designers and videographers and photographers. It's just creative thinking, out of the box, and very resourceful and go-getters and passionate. So it's like a great place for me to be in because I love getting nurtured by those people. And then Vix also has a way of teaching that is so empowering to members inside the membership. Something I wanted to work on personally this year was strengthening my decision-making skills because, as I said, I think a little bit like a lawyer and I like processes and I like order, but sometimes that makes me a little insecure when I'm not sure how to make choices. So the way Vix teaches you her frameworks is basic understanding of the curriculum, and then she empowers you to make the right choices for your own business. So I think that also is a personal growth opportunity for me. And also, I told you I wanted to stop using ChatGPT that much. So that's also a great opportunity for me. And then I love Vix's personality. I love the community. So the combination of all of those factors are not present in one single option. So you see how, yes, the tangibles make her unique. The volume approach, like Instagram growth, is her thing. But then there are so many other things that make her unique as a personal brand. She has really a category of one where if you want all of the things I mentioned, there's only her membership. Other memberships have different features. Other courses have different features. So that's why this part of the exercise is my favorite, because you really realize that you have an ecosystem, which is your quote unquote competitors, which of course they do exist. I love competition, so to me that's not a dirty word. But there's also the reality that you are uniquely positioned to serve a specific group of people in a specific way, in a very unique transformation. And I do want to end this episode with point number 4, which is a word of caution, and that is understand that everything can change. Because I want to end by making you an invitation to being open to change and evolution. Because what makes you unique today can be replicated 1,000 times over in the future. And maybe you think that what makes you unique is one thing, but when you receive feedback from your clients, from your community, you start realizing that what makes you unique in their eyes is different than what you thought. And that's super cool. An example that happened is that I've had several versions of my brand identity, like the visual, and I would always use colors that were like super muted, like very light blues. Like I love everything very subtle. I guess I was loving the whole like online aesthetic of the late 2010s. Like I really loved it. And a lot of black and white, very minimalistic, very chic. And it wasn't until I surveyed past clients and I started noticing such a consistent pattern. And something that they appreciate about me is my spark and my bubbly personality, and then my capacity to transition into strategic talk, but from a relaxed place. So it turned out that they appreciate work with me because it feels fun. It feels that from that lightness, we can be strategic, but it doesn't feel like you're arriving to a session with like this heaviness and this like high expectation. And so you can be free to think. So imagine that I would have stayed forever like, no, this is me. I am like neutrals and baby blues and minimalist. Like, this is me. I would have missed out of showing up in a way that for sure it's more authentic to myself and it serves my community better because but through my visuals, I help them get a little taste of what it feels working with me. So don't think that you have to be static, that you have to remain the same, that whatever you think makes you unique or whatever you identify makes you unique has to be the same thing forever. Whatever made Blockbuster unique in 1994 was the same thing that took them to bankruptcy in 2010. Whatever works for you today and makes you unique today, remember, on a commercial level, not on a personal level, that might not be the same thing that sets you apart in 5 years. And that's okay, because personal brands are personal, are people. We are growing, we are evolving. We might stay consistent with our mission and with our work and with our offers, and that would be incredible that you are this incredible expert in 5 years, in 10 years, in 15 years. But maybe there are edges and elements about you that are revealed or that are developed on the way. And I wouldn't want you to miss out on those because you think that you found your edge, you found your uniqueness, and that's it. Like nothing else to do. There might be some brand principles, right? Your values, your long-term vision, and those may stand stable for decades, really. But your positioning on a commercial level, it's going to be normal to see some changes there. When that happens, don't be afraid to adapt, because it's so delicious to find new angles, new talents, new pieces in your story. At the end of the day, if you are doing this work really like consciously, people are going to feel like everything has been a continuation of you. Like one of my personal brands who I had the pleasure of working with for a couple of years is Jasmine Star. And I think I should do a whole case study on her, because she started her brand and she was really leaning into the soft feminine identity, I guess, and very friendly and like close relationship. You could feel like she was your friend. And she has evolved, definitely more elevated, more luxurious in her visuals, in her communication. I guess even her hair, like everything has evolved, but I still feel like in a way within her more evolved or elevated positioning, she still is very close, very nurturing, very personable, and it feels like it's the same Jasmine that I've been following and working with for years, but now she's in a different season of her life, and now she has found new edges because she's grown so much as a strategist. All these edges make her into a more interesting person, and I now trust her even more because I know that she has put in the work to grow as a person, as a business owner. So if she's giving me advice for my business, I know that it's not advice that she took from something that used to work 6 years ago. It's things that she's developed by learning and relearning the game throughout all these years. At the end of the day, I would love you to stay with this. Personal brands, at the end of the day, are dynamic. They grow with you, they evolve with you. And when you do this work truthfully, people are going to be happy and excited to join you for the ride. I am rooting as always for you. Let me know how you feel about this work. I'll see you back here very soon. Un beso.
I hope you loved today's episode. If so, would you take 30 seconds and send it to someone who's ready to be seen as the go-to in their industry? Also, please leave a quick review for the show on Apple Podcasts. I love reading your comments. They remind me of those little notes you would send your friends in high school, you know? Okay, see you back here soon with the next episode. Un beso.